And welcome in, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you all join us on this Wednesday evening for one of your favorite places to catch podcasts later on in the week as we get ready to talk about what is going on in the wide and wonderful world of sports here towards the end of July. Football season is right around the corner. Correction. NFL season is right around the corner. As what we talk about, football is a year-round thing. Is DJ joined as always by my co-host Kelcey as we begin the part of the season that you hate the most because it usually means one of your top 7 least favorite people in all of sports starts talking at this point, which is something we'll be talking about here shortly.
Yeah, yeah. Let's avoid the talking heads as long as possible, ladies and gentlemen. As long as possible, I'll be great. But you know what? Hey, All Star Game fun's over. All Star Game fun is over, and more All Star Game fun is over now. Well, it will be over as of tonight, as far as the MLS game is going. So WNBA, MLS, and MLB have all knocked their All Star games out now. But yeah, it's hey, we're in that dog days of summer now. I hope everybody's ready for what's left before we get to football season.
Absolutely. We are right around the corner. We will continue talking all things NFL, and we're going to do that going right into the tip-off. And the tip-off is brought to you by our good friends over at SeatGeek. You want to attend an NFL game, a concert, comedy show, anything that requires tickets, use code BELLYBUSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Save yourself a little bit of money with a first-time order. And we're going right into the NFL, as we mentioned. Jerry Jones is going to Jerry Jones, unfortunately. It's right about that time where he begins to speak. Last year we saw it with Dak. The year before with CD. This year it's Micah Parsons. The downside about being the Cowboys with really good players is Jerry Jones is going to talk about really good players as the continued not contract continues to be an issue here. More or less paraphrasing, Jerry Jones saying, we're working on it. It is what it is. At the same time, he missed 6 games last year, so we're in no rush. It'll get done when it gets done. Where Micah Parsons is like, well, that's kind of disappointing. If that is the end, then that is the end, I guess. They more or less surprisingly, Micah and his team have been trying to reach out to the Joneses, and rumors they haven't really been responding. So, breaking news here: the Joneses are not the adults in the room, is what it sounds like, as they continue to drag out another contract. And this one, boy, is it going to be a doozy when Micah Parsons signs, whether it's in Dallas or somewhere else, because we saw what TJ Watt just got paid, saw what Jamar Chase got paid. I know that we saw Myles Garrett got paid. The reason I'm throwing Jamar in there is we're talking non-quarterbacks getting a giant bag. Yeah, Micah's as young as all those guys. He's younger than TJ Watt by a lot. He's younger than Myles Garrett by several years. He is top 5 pass rusher, give or take, in the NFL, depending on how you want to rank it. Like, he's in that category comfortably and he's at his quarter life crisis right now, is what you're telling me, age-wise? Yeah, that man's going to be getting that's $42 million a year right around the corner. And Jerry's not careful, it's going to be 45. So, as the once Cowboys hater, fan, tolerant disciple, however you want to describe it, what are we thinking here? Is this another classic case of the Joneses, or maybe Mike? Or are you taking Micah's side, or are you gonna take the Joneses side? I say jokingly because we know the answer.
I am a pro player 9 times out of 10, and I'm a pro player once again here. Look, Jerry Jones's quote on Monday says, and I quote, "Just because we sign him doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Seriously. I remember signing a player for the highest paid at the position in the league, and he got knocked out 2/3 of the year, Dak Prescott. So there's a lot of things you can think about just as the player does when they're thinking about committing and guaranteeing money. What are you complaining about? You overpaid for Dak. We all knew it was an overpay for Dak. You should have paid him sooner and paid less money for Dak. That's a you problem, Jerry. Don't use your problems to justify what you're doing yet again to a younger player, a healthier player overall, and a player who, for all intents and purposes, is the future of the Dallas Cowboys. If you quote unquote want to be America's team, you need to pay your stars. You also need to have a team really around the rest of these guys. So unless you're going to ship them out for 20 new players, which I doubt you'd even be willing to spend the money, Jerry. I don't know what they're doing here. Like, as a former fan of this team, this is why I walk away. This is why I can comfortably shut my eyes at night and say, yeah, I'm not really a Cowboys fan anymore. I root for the players. I'm still going to hope the players do well, but I don't care about the Joneses. I haven't cared about the Joneses even when I was a fan. They are as bad, if not the worst, owners in the league. And I've stood by that for a long time. Yes, Shad Khan has his own complaints. Yes, the Jets have their own complaints for ownership, but Jerry Jones is the most outspoken and idiotic owner of all of them. And Steven is just letting his dad do whatever. And his dad supposedly retiring and allowing his son to make player personnel decisions. Well, I don't see it. Jerry's in front of the media every single day, and they just started fall camp today. Like, It's day one of actual practice, and we already have Jerry Jones putting words out there that are just basically saying, yeah, I don't really care about my players. I just care about the star. But, okay, sure, you might care about the star, but you have to care about your players to care about the star. Like, you're caring about the wrong star is really what I'm getting to here. And it is a problem. Yeah, this is just garbage, man. Like, Jerry is just retire, man.
I want to throw this out there because Micah did like and repost this as well. A fun quote from JJ Watt. Anytime you could publicly take a dig at your star quarterback and your star pass rusher simultaneously right before the season begins, you just got to take it. Nothing makes a guy want to fight for you more than hearing how upset that you are they got hurt while fighting for you, referencing that quote you just mentioned as well. That's what I really don't get about too, because we all have sometimes with Micah and the podcast that he does, especially during the season, it's been a little bit like, okay, really? But he's never been in trouble. He missed 6 games last year and was still awesome. That was the first time he's been injured. He's been a model of consistency for you. Since the day you drafted him as a off-ball linebacker, and he's a top 5 pass rusher before he's at 25 years old. Like, he transitioned as needed even after Dan Quinn left, which was the worry. Micah Parsons was still really good last year in a semi-travesty of a season for the Cowboys with all the injuries and everything that happened. So we already know how this is going to end. He's going to get paid, and it's most likely going to be with the Cowboys. It's going to most likely cost 140 cents on the dollar now because you opened your mouth and waited so long. Maybe Jerry wants to do that. He wants to have the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Maybe he's just trying to wait for that because you know how it is, the Cowboy, the star, that superstardom, the headline that comes with it. Maybe it's something weird like that. I don't know, but it's really making it's like, say Micah stubs his toe. It's like, you know what? I don't really want to play this week. My toe hurts. I don't think he would. He's not wired that way. But it does.
We've seen
something
do that, though.
If something does get, like, maybe a knee gets banged up a little bit, it's like, you know what? I'm going to take this week against the Eagles off. I don't feel like fighting Lane Johnson for 60 minutes with a sore knee. And especially with that, if I don't have that guarantee on the back end. And it's just dumb to me. And we say this because he is the owner, but he also makes those player personnel decisions. He is very much involved in those on top of it. It's them and the Bengals, and like him and the Browns. We just need to get them out of the way. Just like send them all away. We're not going to dive into those ones. Otherwise, this will be an owner's tier. But
I need an IQ test or a competency test after owners cross the age of 70. And there's nothing. I have no issue with people over the age of 70. But when you have this much money and you were raised in times where individuals of a certain color don't get paid, some of those things carry over. And we've heard it all the time from players from the Cowboys and players from the Bengals and players from these other teams talking about their owner. So yeah, look, I'm not gonna try to say those words out loud, but I'm just a thought for somebody to cook on. Also something to kind of kick around your brain. Micah Parsons, when he responded to Jerry Jones, says, when you go around the league and see those other teams taking care of their best guys, you just wish you had the same type of energy. I've seen a lot of upset players, and this seems like a very, look, if you guys aren't going to pay me 140 times what I'm worth now, I'm not signing for you. You don't get the hometown discount anymore is what this reads. It's like, this is game over for you. So open up the blank checkbook and give it over. Like, that's what that looks like.
You look at his draft class, too. That includes Jamar Chase. He has been paid. Granted, that took a little bit of tomfoolery last offseason, too. Offseason, not this offseason.
Also a player that said something very similar and got paid nearly 140 times his worth if he would have gotten the home instead of the hometown discount.
And as we saw there, too, they didn't pay him last year. He's like, all right, I'll play. Sets the triple crown and is arguably the best offensive player in the game, not named Saquon Barkley outside of quarterback. So now you got to pay him the ransom. Devontae Smith, he's gotten paid from that draft class. Penei Sewell, he's gotten paid. Patrick Surtain. You go down the list in that draft class of just those elite first rounders going through the 5-year deal. They've all gotten paid for the most part. I think Rashawn Slater is next up, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So he's probably due soon. But if you're Micah Parsons, you should not be the last of those major guys that are going to get a second contract to get paid.
Which first.
Is like easily him and Jamar have been the two best, at least credentials wise, you could say, as far as like the all pros, the stats, the Pro Bowls, etc. So you know what, Jerry? Good luck. At least your pockets are deep. So when and if you do have to sign him, you can handle it. We know that for sure. And it's weird because I think the Cowboys have a chance to be weirdly decent this year, but it requires Micah Parsons to be Micah Parsons. And for better and for worse, this is not a good start. But let us know down in the comment section below whose side are you siding with, and more importantly, why are we all? Is there anybody that actually is taking the Joneses out of this one? Because I mostly just want to hear what they have to say about it.
Unless your name is Johnson or Brown, I doubt you're taking the side of the Jones.
or Hassel.
or maybe Jones at the end of the day, depending on
There
which
might be A
Jones it
Jones
is.
in there that disagrees too.
Yeah, but like honestly, there's very few families or very few people with that should be on Jerry and Steven's side here. Well, you're really on Jerry's side. Steven doesn't have a side. He just takes his dad's coattails. You know,
It'd be weird if they
this
were in
might
the.
be why we don't get allowed into the Star to do any sort of content production. Is maybe because I trash them too hard. I'm sorry, I'm not.
I was. What's interesting too is it's not even that they're in the middle of negotiating. Is what's weird is they
Yeah.
have tried to negotiate. And the Jones have been difficult not answering the phone calls rumored. So that's what's weirdly weird. It's not the back and forth. It's not a. They're not even in the middle of negotiations as this issue. It's like they have trouble even getting to the negotiation board, which is very, very odd from the rumors. So
You
you know
remember the
what?
TV show Ballers?
Who could forget?
Okay, so the defensive lineman that played for the Cowboys, that they had the
Yeah.
character that this is the opposite of that exact moment where the guy gets hurt playing paintball and he just ignores the phone calls and goes and gets his surgery. Like this is like the reverse of that. This is Micah's doing everything to do the right things, and his camp is doing the right things according to reports. And Jerry and Steven are just saying, nah, we're not going to answer the phone. We're too busy. Too busy doing what? Getting a fake tan? What are you doing here?
Look, there's nothing wrong with a fake tan. You always got to be prepared, but you need to take care of business before you be dabbling into those. But we're into that's one player who's still active and trying to get paid. We're going to transition out to another player who got paid, and NIL was a thing. He might have got paid a whole lot more considering he was an absolute superstar in his time. We were talking about Tyron, the Honey Badger, Matthew, calling it a career, retiring from football. A very good NFL career, an awesome NFL career, but I think it's almost understated how awesome he was at LSU, especially for that year run when he earned the nickname Honey Badger, where Honey Badger doesn't give it, you know what? Doesn't give it. He coined a nickname. He was in the Heisman Trophy finalist as a safety slash nickelback, which was just so dynamic. What sucks is I feel like a lot of people don't remember that. They're going to remember him trash talking Tom Brady in the Super Bowl and getting yelled at directly after he threw a touchdown on him right afterwards. So hopefully they remember the Honey Badger as the Honey Badger, not that. But Tyrann Mathieu is an awesome safety, and it's quote unquote character issues, quote unquote, had him drop in the draft a little ways compared to what we thought he would go. And he more than made up for that his entire NFL career with the Chiefs, the Saints, and various other teams. So glad to see Honey Badger get a chance to retire on his own terms later and have that full long career after that insane season at LSU. Then the next year with the suspension and the other issues as well that kind of caused him to drop in the draft. Nice to see him be able to still have that full NFL career and live up to at least the majority of that potential. He had a really underratedly awesome NFL career. I believe a all-pro at least a couple of times and a several-time Pro Bowler too.
Yeah, look, painting a lot of team sides in the SEC. Let's not forget he was a freshman doing all of that. He was a dominant force. If it wasn't for, if you mentioned the NIL thing, I think if NIL does, I don't think he ever gets kicked out of LSU. Especially if current laws are in regulation like they are today, he definitely doesn't get kicked out of LSU. And that's why he dropped in the draft. You know, he had to fight to get back to his playing days, get back to the NFL. Like that didn't just happen. And I think that's always worth mentioning is like he is a guy who, yes, he made a mistake, but he changed based on that mistake and made a career out of this. And you know, a guy who I've seen play in person, been on the same field or was supposed to be on the same field as him. And honestly, he's a fantastic player. One of the most athletic people I've ever watched, just giftedly, naturally athletic. And it scares the crap out of you as a slow white guy. You're like, I'm glad I'm not healthy. I'm glad I can't go play that guy because I would be made to look like an idiot. Like imagine I try to pull and try to block that guy. There's no chance. That guy walks around me like I'm a idiot. And that's just how good he was, athletic he was. Natural game reader. That's why he made the transition into safety in the NFL. Let's not forget he was a corner, right? And then he transitions to a safety role. So that's how good he is, how good he was at reading the game. And yes, he might have talked to some trash. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I love a good trash talker. And he checks that box. So, yeah. Honey Badger is what Honey Badger does, and Honey Badger gets what he wants is kind of the old saying from LSU. And, yeah, it rang true in his NFL career. By the way, that LSU team, Odell, Jarvis, Bo Claiborne, Tyrann Mathieu, just to name a few guys on that team.
Yeah, that was an absolute unit of a team for it.
Barcavius Mingo.
Yeah, I think Jamal Adams as well, if I'm not mistaken, like, or might have been just before Jamal Adams, but like
just before, yep,
just before, like an absolute unit of an LSU team. And just to wrap up his career, he finished with 4 touchdowns in the NFL and 36 interceptions over a 12-year career. So he averaged about 3 interceptions as a safety and multiple touchdowns, and I think 4th in defensive rookie of the year, 6-time Pro Bowler, multiple time All Pro, outstanding career. Glad to see him kind of get to go off on his own terms at 33 years old too. The game didn't force him out. He got to kind of go out on his own terms, and those are always a pleasure to see. Getting to leave on your own accord, which unfortunately is not going to sound like it's going to be the case for a handful of UFL teams moving forward, as the UFL announcing some relocations. We're going to take a quick look here. Looks like Michigan, Houston, Birmingham, and Memphis are all being relocated, with the new markets will be Boise, Idaho, Columbus, Ohio, Florida, likely Orlando, and Kentucky from arguably Louisville or Lexington, according to James Larson with the excuse me, PFN. And first of all, Birmingham, really? That is your biggest, like, what? Well, that's your multiple time champion. Like Michigan, regularly in the playoffs. Houston, I mean, Houston's kind of been a little bit rough, and that's a very busy market to compete in. So I guess if you have to relocate in a way to expand, that one. Memphis, kind of the same thing, a little bit of an up and down. So if you feel the need to relocate two teams, those two make sense. But Michigan and Birmingham, absolutely outrageous. And then really, Louisville slash Lexington, that's a surprising one for me. And I like Boise, Idaho as much as the next guy, but I don't think they necessarily need a UFL team right now. I think Columbus, Ohio would actually be interesting. They have kind of a weird infrastructure when you look at like the FCS team. The Buckeyes are basically a pro team. They pay their players like a pro team. So I think that's an interesting fit, but this is still crazy to me to just up and relocate 50% of the league like that, including two of your stronger franchises.
I mean, honestly, you argue that there are 3 strong franchises here, and then Memphis. Like, realistic, Houston, they carried their fan base. You know, they carried that fan base around, and there were rabid Renegades fans. It's, or sorry, yeah, and
The Renegades is Arlington.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. But it's a historic franchise. Michigan's a historic franchise. Birmingham, a historic franchise. Those are all old USFL teams that now in the UFL are now getting shuttered, essentially. And Birmingham, look, you have 3-time champions, 2-time UFL champions, and you're going to drop them? That's crazy to me.
In an area where that's kind of they are the dominant sports thing in Birmingham, really, said, especially when it's not Alabama / Auburn season.
Right, exactly. It's something to do. And look, they maybe didn't have a packed stadium anymore, but I couldn't even remember the name of the new stadium. But it's not a packed stadium, but it's still one of the biggest one of the most filled stadiums you have. Yeah, it's not St. Louis. It's not Arlington, where you're headquartered. Of course, it's not those, because you have people literally just rolling through Arlington. They're like, oh, we could pay $10 for a ticket. Let's go do that. You know, like, this doesn't make sense to me from Birmingham. Memphis, like, why are we taking a team out of Memphis where there's no other team in that period, in that region, that's a football team during that period of time other than Birmingham? That's a great rivalry there. Michigan, I don't get why we're taking away Michigan here. That's, again, you know, if that's the case, if this actually happens, like, Zach is not a happy person. But yeah, the league has officially, and you know, it's a denial of this relocation. They said that the league office is in the planning stages for next season and beyond. At this point, we have nothing to report on any unauthorized speculation, quote unquote. A direct shot at James, who, by the way, I've met before. Fantastic guy, knows what he's doing. He has a great contacts. So if this comes out to be not true, I'm surprised. He's been pretty darn accurate on everything he reports, UFL wise. But yeah, this is kind of a surprising situation where it's like, why are we doing this when we were just talking about expansion instead? Why are we relocating instead of expansion? Because that was the next talk, was supposed to be expansion, not relocation.
And our good friend Zach Howman, who's been on the show multiple times to talk UFLs, regularly said too, the issue has been marketing in a lot of these markets as well, too, like finding these markets and pushing them, which they haven't done. So maybe they see opportunities to push in there, but it's like, at the same time, you're not really fixing the problem. You're just changing the math. Like, you're still going to get the same answer if you don't change the equation. So that's why it's very weird. And to do it with an entire half of the league, you want to relocate a team, give it a try. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Teams relocate, it happens, but to literally pull out 4 of them and 3 of them, as you made the case, 2 for sure, some of your bigger franchises. I'm so confused by this. And I'm worried it's going to spell doom for the UFL sooner than later. I'm worried that this is going to have a much more negative butterfly effect than a quote unquote positive one.
Yeah, and why would you put, and this is no hit on Boise, but if we look at a map of these teams and where they're located,
like, all Boise right here, then bam.
Yeah, Boise would be the Hawaii of a division. It would be the Cal in the ACC. Like, Yeah, why
We
are
are
we
right
even
here. They're gonna go way over here. For those
the
who can kind
closest
of
to
see a map
them?
in the background.
The closest to them at that point in time would be what? St. Louis, because there's no Seattle team anymore. If I remember right, there's no Seattle team.
No Seattle team. I think the closest would still end up being Arlington or something like that,
I
just
think
because of
it's St. Louis is the closest to Boise, honestly, at this point.
St. Louis will be over here. Yeah, you're
It's I
looking at
mean,
a day trip in a different time zone.
yeah,
You're looking at a change of time zone and a
24
day trip
hours.
regardless.
24 hours is what you have to travel to get there. This is crazy to me. I don't mind the Columbus idea. I think that still would be better served going to Canton because it's an easier trip for Pittsburgh fans, for Indiana fans to make the trip to Canton than it is to make the trip to Columbus because the roads don't necessarily, like, yes, they go to Columbus, but there's all that construction right there. Do you really want to fight with that? Do you really want to fight with Ohio State sports during the spring? I don't really want to do that. Whereas Canton has history, Hall of Fame. You did well when you did stuff there during the spring, anyways. Why not go back there? I don't hate that. I hate the Orlando one. Like, why are we doing Orlando again? That's failed twice. Why are we going to keep trying that? Just let that one die. Maybe try a Jacksonville. Maybe try a Tallahassee. Just maybe try a Pensacola. Somewhere where it's not in the southern part of the state and it's more in the panhandle, you probably have more options of getting fans because if you're going to pull a team out of Birmingham, you need to have a team close because then you can get all the Alabama fans, all the Georgia fans, all the Mississippi fans, and all the Florida fans all in one location, which would be in the panhandle versus going to Orlando, which is looked at like a non-southern location. So southern fans wouldn't even go. So it doesn't make sense for Orlando at all. Kentucky, yeah, just like, why? But whatever. Like, I don't hate the idea, but like, why? Cincinnati would make more sense, which is really what it looks like they're trying to do, is do a Cincinnati thing and do a second Ohio team. But it doesn't make sense, especially if you're pulling out Michigan to do that. That just doesn't make sense at all.
I feel like if you want to do a shakeup like this too, you need to fully commit to a location. Like, let's say you want to pull these 4 teams. All right, let's expand to the West Coast, where, like you mentioned, there's nothing over there. Let's get a
Yeah.
Seattle, a Portland, and somewhere in California then, and then throw in your Boise for some weird reason, or Salt Lake or something. Like,
Yeah,
fully
exactly.
commit to a relocation effort like that. Don't just this weird dabbling in on that. Like you mentioned, Florida, Kentucky, Cincinnati. What are we doing here? Columbus, still okay. That's like of those 4, that's the one I'm most okay with. But like Salt Lake would have been great. Like put 3 of them there, then 1, like something like
The
that. This
Salt
is
Lake,
what's really weird.
the Salt Lake team with the AAA, whatever it was, that other spring league that failed because they didn't pay their players after the 3rd week. They had a Salt Lake team. That team did well. That team showed up. Luis Perez, I believe, was on that Salt Lake team. Like you pick locations where there's not fans, and if you do a Salt Lake, then you do a Boise, then you do a Seattle, then you do a Portland. You put a Pacific Northwest team. Yeah, you do that.
Maybe throw one in California since like the Rock close to LA. Whatever you want to
Yeah.
do with that if you want to. There's plenty. Sacramento's an option. You could just do Los Angeles. Like,
and that's the
I
thing. Do
wouldn't do it, but
Sacramento, state capital,
San
has no
Diego.
professional football.
Ooh, San Diego. They have football fans there. They need something.
They have fans of something. I don't know if they have football fans, but they got fans.
They have former football fans who now have an
Yeah.
axe to grind.
Yeah. So I look at this point in time, like, choose better locations. I hope part of me hopes this is like false news, but as a person who's talked to James before, I doubt it's so false that it's wrong. It might just be that these were the first released locations, and then they're gonna kind of perceive this as a leak market thing, and then they're gonna test it this way, and then they're like, "Oh, that was a dumb idea." Maybe that's what they end up doing. But yeah, this just feels like they were throwing things at the wall, and these are somehow the 4 options that stuck, and it's just like, why? Why are these the 4 options that stuck for you guys?
Well, based on some of these numbers right here, it's looking like it's not doing so hot. And a lot of people have seen it. So maybe hopefully you're right. And they end up being like, all right, retracting this. We're going to go back on this one. We're not going to do this. But hopefully, if there's any fans of these teams, let us know down below what you think of the potential of them moving in. Or if you're someone who is curious about the move and think it's a good idea, let us know where you think they should go. Do you think these are the right markets? Do you have other ideas in mind like we did? I'm curious to hear both sides of the spectrum on this one. I personally think mass relocation is a bad idea if you want to switch 1 or 2 teams, sure. But the market choice has to be better. There's like one of these 4 teams that I think is even tolerable personally.
Just treat your locations like an alternate option for pro teams, meaning you don't go to the big cities, you go to the suburbs. You are the FCS of the bowl system. You are Division 1 AA. Treat yourself like that.
You need to pick the big cities that don't already have established markets. They're like, for example, Don't go to DC, go to Richmond. A couple hours away, people will travel there. There's not a whole lot else there. You go a big city that's growing. Columbus to
Like,
Cleveland and Cincinnati.
what makes Birmingham so great? To give you an example as somebody who lived there, if you look at a TV map for football game days in the NFL, Atlanta, Tennessee, and New Orleans games, they have a circle, and it all overlaps right around Birmingham and right around that middle of Alabama, Montgomery, Birmingham, Auburn, uh, Talladega. Those areas all wrap into this little encompass or our compass here, where they don't have a set team that they see every Sunday. They rotate based on time zones, based on this, based on whatever TV station has priority that day. Like, you don't get a set team. So that's why you have in that range so many different weird NFL fandoms. Whereas the UFL gives them a singular team to support, and you get the craziness of Alabama fans, you get the craziness of Auburn fans, craziness of New Orleans fans, craziness of Atlanta and Tennessee fans, and they all converge right there. And it's like, it's a perfect place for that. Find more of those areas and just relax and don't try to overthink this. Like, we don't need to see the UFL in a Los Angeles. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see a New York City team again. But a Rochester, a Buffalo, those are options. A Syracuse, cool. Not a Boston. I don't want to see a Boston. Maybe you do put a Boston there because there's not technically an NFL team in Boston. But in Foxborough, there's an NFL team. Yes, those are two different locations for those that don't know a map. Yeah, no, I don't know what the UFL is trying to do here, but it doesn't seem like they even know what they're trying to do.
Not at all. But anyone who's a fan of these teams or a fan of the UFL, sound off in any of the comments below. Let us know what you think about it for sure. We'll definitely be keeping a track of our good friend Zach as they navigate through this, and we'll see how it plays out. But it's definitely not a great start. But we're going to transition now from not a great start to arguably not at the best finish, depending on how you want to look at it. We're going to go to the hardwood, and Bleacher Report releasing their all-time top 100 NBA players rankings. We're not going to go through all 100 of them because, well, the show's already gone on long enough, and I don't think anyone wants that. They could just go read it for themselves. What we are going to focus on is towards the top, looking at their top 12. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Bill Russell, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, Hakeem Olajuwon, Kevin Durant, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Kevin Garnett, Nikola Jokic, and Dirk Nowitzki, rounding out the top 18 with David Robinson at 19 and Julius Erving at number 20. So I'm going to let you go and start with this one. Let me know which, give me your thoughts on this one, because this is your first time seeing this list. Give me a quick little, give me a first reaction.
Okay. So
Let's start with a positive one. What's one thing you do like about the list? Let's do a compliment
they got
sandwich.
the top two right. I think they
All
got
right,
the top two right. I think they
a compliment sandwich.
I think they gave love to Magic as well, and I don't hate where they gave love to Tim Duncan either. I think that's a fitting spot for Tim Duncan.
However,
I have issue with the number of centers ahead of Shaquille O'Neal. I have an issue with the number of centers between Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon. I have an issue with Kevin Durant being considered greater than Oscar Robertson. I have an issue with Kevin Durant being considered greater than one of the best scoring point power forwards we've ever seen in Dirk Nowitzki. I also have an issue with Kevin Garnett being considered better than Nikola and Jokic and Dirk Nowitzki. And now it's not to do with anything, but the big ticket was a box office, but he wasn't a stat stuffer throughout his entire career. He was a great average, above average player. He's a great secondary option, never a great primary option. That's my long-term thing with Kevin Garnett. That's nothing wrong, but and I do know some of this list because of the Scottie Pippen issues, which are a whole nother thing. And then the one that just kind of grinds my gears that immediately set me for a loop is looking at Kobe outside of the top 10 and behind Steph. First of all, why is Kobe outside of the top 5? I don't know. And this is coming from a kid who grew up hating Kobe Bryant and hating the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay. How is the greatest closer we have ever seen, the most lethal scorer we have ever witnessed, not a top 5 player? He has had 2 Hall of Fame careers with 2 different numbers spanning over a decade each time. You could take his number 8 and put him in the top 15, and you could take his number 24 and put him in the top 15. And both of them are probably still higher than where he's currently ranked. So, little recency bias here from these rankers. I like a lot of things Bleacher Report does, but they've always struggled with NBA coverage at the end of the day. And this is one of those. And like, I don't mind the call-outs to the greats. I don't mind the Bill Russell call-outs. I don't mind the Kareem call-outs. I just think they're too high. And we've talked about our top 10 list before. I struggle with where to put the older generations of centers who were bigger, stronger, faster, and just in a completely different league than the rest of the guys they've ever played with. I've always wondered that. Bill Russell, I have a hard time putting Bill Russell as a top 5 NBA player, period. Top 5 winner in NBA history, yes. Top 5 player in NBA history. I had more moves than him by the time I was in high school, and I sucked at basketball. Like, he had a turnaround, hook shot. That's it. Great. He had no drop step. He had no power dribble. He had nothing like that. Bill Russell was great at being big and being bigger than everybody else. And he just happened to play for the Celtics. Would we be talking about him if he played for any other team in the league? No. If he was a Sixer, would we be talking about Bill Russell? No. So that's an issue. And then down at the very bottom of this, Dr. J at number 20. What? One of the most skillful NBA players, the doctor. He has one of the most replayed moments in NBA history in the wraparound under the basket layup. And you're telling me that a guy who did that for funsies, mind you, his entire career, if you encompass his entire talent and what he did for the league, is only number 20? That feels blasphemous. I feel like, again, I talked Garnett, Jokic, Dirk, David Robinson. Those guys are easy for me because they're new generation. Dr. J, I think, is better than them as far as a top ranking goes because he did more for the league. Just like Oscar, I think I never put the Oscar in the top 9, but to me, he's always a 10 through 12 guy. He's not a 14 guy. Hakeem is a top 10 guy, but he's not up there. Wilt is a guy I struggle with because did his 100 points happen? I don't know.
I've seen videos of literally every other event in history so far.
I can take a picture of 100 of me holding a sign that says 100, and you don't know whether I talked about eating 100 burgers, eating 100 cookies, or I just did 100 push-ups. What about, like, you look at me, you're going to automatically assume the food option, but like I could do that too. I don't know. It feels like one of the biggest, like, most drummed up moments in history. It feels like the biggest PR thing in NBA history because nobody's ever talked about it other than what's in the same exact box report time and time again. There's no eyewitness. There's nobody that says, yeah, I was there. It's just like, yeah, he did that, I guess. So I don't know. I have a lot of problems, but like, sure, yeah, at least you got the top 2, right?
I'll even say they got the top 3 right. I'll give Kareem number 3. I'll give him that for sure. Like, I think 3, it could be a little bit fluid. Like, we agree on the top 2.
Here's my only complaint about Kareem. He wasn't even the best player on that Lake Show team. I think Magic was the better of the 2 players. And purely, again, we're talking players here. Magic is better. Winners, sure. Yeah, okay, I'll put Kareem up there.
6 and 1 and half a dozen the other. And what I will say is my issue is it's gonna have the same issues you. You said you have a hard time putting Bill Russell that high. I don't get him out of it. Move him down. Like, you want a team with 9 other Hall of Famers playing in a different era. You should be in the top 10 for what you accomplished. But if you swap him and Kobe, I won't be upset if you put him in like 11. You're just talking about a 6'8", like, he deserves to be on this list. I'm not trying to downplay his greatness. I'm saying we're talking about individual players here. He was a key cog on an incredibly efficient system. He was what Jalen Hurts is for the Eagles. He should be respected and lauded and praised for it. But number 5 is a little bit wild. So I'm going to put Kobe up there. Weirdest stat, I believe it was Kobe, Tim Duncan, and one other player whose name eludes me off the top of my head. The only guys to win, and Steph Curry, the only players to win multiple championships without a top 75 player. Steph did it because he had the 2 without Kevin Durant. Kobe did it because they shafted Pau Gasol and didn't let him be player number 75. And then Tim Duncan, of course, because he won the ones after David Robinson when they don't like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili as much as everybody else, I guess. I digress. But Kobe needs to be a little bit higher. I think this is almost an overcorrection recency bias is what it feels like is a take I saw somebody else have. There was a point after he tragically passed, people were saying he was 2 or 3, like they were putting him right in that conversation. I think probably around the 5, this is almost an overcorrection now, trying to use this quote unquote efficiency numbers against him. When all you had to do was look at him play, really. Like, in these is He has more 60-point games than pretty much everybody else on this list, not named allegedly Will Chamberlain combined. Like, let's crank him up into that top 7-ish range around where Shaq, Tim Duncan, that era is. Russell comes down a bit. Steph, I don't mind there. That's okay. Hakeem needs to be higher, as you mentioned. He's top 10 in blocks and steals still as a center, while being known for his offensive game. The dream shake is a thing because Hakeem the dream. In the golden age of centers in that mid to late 80s throughout the 90s, one against Shaq, one against David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Dikembe Mutombo, a true golden age of centers, and he was the one that stood out during that one. They say, oh, he only won his titles because Jordan retired for 2 years. No one else did it, and he immediately claimed it. So you're saying he's not the best player of all time. All right, we got that. He won as soon as the best player of all time steps away, he's the guy that immediately takes the mantle. All right, you got me. He's not Michael Jordan, but he still should be higher than this. I don't mind Kevin Durant so high. I think he should be a touch lower, closer where Nikola Jokic is, and I think Giannis should be in this conversation if Jokic is, and because he's right there with Dirk Nowitzki. They've done a lot of the same things. I think he should be included in that conversation. Overall, I won't try and rip this one apart just because we have more to get into, but I'm agreeing with you with the two standout ones there. Kobe needs to be much higher. Bill Russell needs to be a little bit lower. Hakeem needs to be a much higher as well. Shaq, I don't mind where he's at. You could drop him a spot or two. He's top 10. Like he's right in there. So I do like the Tim Duncan love, like you mentioned as well, too. That man is truly an outstanding player that almost gets lost in history, kind of like Hakeem and Michael Jordan, him and Kobe Bryant, because Kobe was the more box office. He was the bigger star of the two because Tim Duncan avoided contact with anybody whatsoever, basically. He would buy his clothes at Old Navy and people would be shocked to see him there. So he's a consummate professional. But those are kind of some of the things I think as well. We have some similar gripes. We won't dive too deep into this. There's 80 more of these. I think the only one I'm going to point out that I don't like is the fact that Jason Tatum is in the 90s. That with what he's accomplished already, you could put him ahead of Paul George. You could put him ahead of some of those guys that are in like 70. You could put him ahead of Draymond Green, who's 88. Like, come on now. Let's not be silly here. Like, put him at 75, something like that.
I do have one other gripe, and that's nowhere in this top 20. He's 21. Is Moses Malone?
You can make a case he should be in this top 20.
Oh, he absolutely should be. He is the all-time leader in offensive rebounds. When he retired, he was the leading all-time scorer in NBA history. He's only been surpassed by Karl Malone, who is behind him on the list, and Kobe, and now LeBron,
and Kareem.
Yeah, sorry, Kareem.
Yeah, but still, you should make a strong case that Moses should be at least.
He's a 3-time MVP winner.
I mean, he coined the phrase "faux." But I think he makes a strong case to be up there as well. David Robinson's awesome. I think he should be a top 40 player, top 30 player. I think 19 might be a touch high. I know he's the Admiral. I know he's awesome. I know he had that 70-point game to get the scoring title, but I think you could put him in that 25-ish range. I think you could bump him down without it being egregious at this point. Same with Kevin Garnett. I think you could bump them down a little bit without it being egregious, but I do wonder how much quote-unquote efficiency and very, very deep data analytics took part in this one with the people who made this list. Like, I'm wondering if they're the same stats that made Rudy Gobert a 4-time defensive player of the year. I'm curious or if this was just vibes. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list. So they have a highest top 100 and a lowest top 100 ranking. So it's on a panel, it looks like. They took the average. For example,
that makes sense. It takes one guy to mess it all up. That makes sense.
They have Jokic. His highest ranking was 12. His lowest was 28. There's Oscar was 11 and 23. KD
makes the Kobe
was
placement even more egregious.
11 and 20. Hakeem was 10 and 16. Kobe's highest ranking was 4 and his lowest was 18. So somehow he ends up at 11.
I don't know how. 4 might be a touch high, but 18 is egregious. My goodness.
Steph was 4 and 13, which I don't mind the Steph place. I think Steph at 10 right now is fine.
The fact that someone at 4 is a little bit wild to me, though. Like 4, like that's crazy.
Yeah. Larry was between 5 and 12, which I think 12 is a little low.
Perfect.
I think 5 to 10 is fine.
I think he fits
Duncan 5 to 11.
Tim,
Shaq 5 to 9. Sure. Bill Russell 4 to 10. Again, this is a question I have. Are you rewarded for your team winning, or are you rewarded for personal stats? Magic's 3 to 6. That's fine. Cool. Kareem was 1 and 4. So like they weren't wrong. But now LeBron's is funny because it's 1 and 3, and then MJ is 1 and 2. Those are his two splits. Like, so as it gets higher, it narrows it down. But I just it bothers me that there's so many people widely I know it's a personal preference. It's a popularity contest at times. It's when you were born, when did you watch the game, how you support the team, who was your favorite team, because certain teams hated certain players, and that also affects how you look at these rankings too. So
Which statistical evidence do you hold in higher regard than others too? Because you could twist a stat any way you want. It depends on which ones you hold more dear to your heart. What do you
Greg
like?
Ostertag is an all-time great at something, and that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, who would have thought we'd have a show with multiple Salt Lake references in it? I never thought we'd see the day, but you know what? That it is what it is. Let us know what you think of the top 100 list as well too. Kudos to them.
John
These lists
Stockton
are
also top 30 is John Stockton, all-time steals and assist leader.
there. You go. That's all you need to know at that point. But let us know what you think of these lists. I do love that they do these lists. We're not trying to trash on it just because we disagree with that. I do love the ideas that they do this list and how they average with multiple panels. We do our own top 10 list pretty much almost biannually at this point. You know, we might have to do one of our own here coming up soon. Just
Yeah, it looks
for
like
the
we
heck
have
of
our
it.
own
It is
answer for top 20 here.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have something to build off of, but that's going to do it here for the tip off, which is going to take us into one of Kelcey's favorite parts of every show. That is, of course, the main event. And for the main event, we are once again talking football as the NFL season is right around the corner. We are 8 days away from NFL football being played. Not true, actual NFL football. It will be the Hall of Fame preseason game, but it still counts because Justin Herbert will be stepping on a field, probably not suited up, but there will be football going on. So it's time to continue our countdown. We're going with fantasy football today. We're going to talk about some potential sleepers that could help you win your league and some guys that I say duds, but at the same time, doesn't mean they're bad. It just means where you draft them and what they give you might not quite, it might hurt you a little bit, for example. Some guys, they maybe you just take a little bit too high and it ends up hurting you. Maybe they don't get hurt. They just don't quite do what you need them to. So we're going to start on the positive note, though. We're going to each go with a sleeper back and forth. So I'll go ahead and give mine first. I'm going to start with this one is very dependent on what kind of league scoring you do. I think he could, and depending on where you draft him at. I'm going to go with Xavier Worthy, receiver from Kansas City. Right now, he's going at about receiver number 29. He's even behind his teammate Rashee Rice still, who has started to drop a little bit with his looming suspension, but he's still getting me around to a pick receiver 29, which means round 7 in a 10-man league, give or take. 12-man league, probably 6, just depends on how many you have. In the leagues like the ones that we run where you get points for big plays, like 40 extra points for 40, 50-yard plays, I think it's going to be incredibly valuable. I expect the Kansas City offense to return a little bit to the Star Wars light show that we've seen in previous years. Especially when Rasheed is healthy, when Marquise Hollywood Brown is healthy. Assume he doesn't get his complete chest destroyed in the first 10 minutes of the preseason. Xavier Worthy coming off the rookie year where I thought he got going a lot during the back half. Travis Kelcey, I believe, will be healthier. And I just expect the Chiefs to bounce back this year as well, offensively at least. The last few years have been painful. See, the comparison I'm thinking of Eagles Deshaun Jackson. That's what I think he could be a lot of this year. Won't be a high volume guy. PPR league, he's not going to be like what you get with ARSB or those guys are going to get a ton of targets. But boy, is he going to make some explosive plays when he does. And he did have a good rookie year. Coming in as basically an exclusively a 110-pound speedster. I expect him to build off of that. And may have been a lot of garbage time, but in the Super Bowl, he was quite dynamic. Getting down the field, explosive play. So give me Xavier Worthy as a potential sleeper. You grab him to a flex player, might end up being your highest scoring receiver, depending on how you draft. Probably not, but I think he could be someone that at any given moment can give you 30.
Yeah, I love that option. For me, I'm going to stick with a wide receiver as my first sleeper. I'm going with Jakobi Meyers from the Raiders.
Ooh.
Geno Smith coming in, adding in that new offense, that new style. Yeah, they're going to be Ashton heavy, but that's not going to be completely reliant. And by the way, do you remember how many receptions Jakobi Meyers had before dropping a pass at the end of last season?
I think he had 0 drops if they recorded, or only had like 1, something like that.
Yeah. It's wild. Absolutely one of the most underrated receivers in the league. And it's got a pretty comfortable quarterback throwing him the ball. As long as Geno can stay upright, he does pretty well. Geno's not going to light the stat line up, but he's going to get you the ball when you need to get the ball. And Jakobi can do that. So that's my guy looking at wide receiver 39 right now. Like, come on. That's a easy like pick and stash type of situation. Maybe he goes off a week and then he has great matchups. Now you're looking at your wide receiver 2 on your team and potentially a wide receiver 1 in some bye weeks that can carry you through. I mean, he has had a really interesting season the last 2 years, and he did that with Aiden O'Connell and some guys. That's not a great starting, conversation. Yeah, he's not the pure number 1 there in Vegas. Obviously, that's Brock Bowers, but he is the second option. And there is not really a third option right now that you can really comfortably say. So, yeah, I like Jakobi Meyers there as my my first sleeper.
To add to that too, as far as strength of schedule on paper, he has a very, very good friendly receiver schedule to have. He's got 4 out
Yeah,
of 5 stars from a lot of the rankings, so he should have a
fourth easiest strength of schedule for all wide
exactly.
receivers this season.
And you mentioned that it's a huge upgrade at quarterback from Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell in that mess. A huge upgrade at head coach with Pete Carroll. And Geno Smith, we know Geno Smith's gonna one thing he's gonna do, he's gonna get the ball out there. He's incredibly accurate. And he's full of bangers. Just recently dropping. I didn't come to Vegas to roll dice. I came here to run the table. When you got a quarterback dropping bars like that, I'm gonna take your word for it. So my only concern with Jakobi Meyers is I hate that week 8 bye week because there's a lot of really good players. Depending on how the draft boards go, that you can end up with a full team of guys with a week 8 bye week. Just the way it's
You got to be
stacked.
careful the bye week, of course. But yeah, it's
Everything else
absolutely
about it
something.
screams, okay, this guy might actually save me, especially. And I like that week 8 bye weeks. That means during the playoff run, you don't have to worry about a bye week or those sort
Also,
of situations.
for fantasy PPR wise, he only did not exceed his expectation in 5 weeks last year, meaning in 13 of the other 18 weeks of the season, he exceeded his expectations.
Can't ask for much more than that when you're drafting somebody probably in like the 7th and the 8th or 9th round too. Like you're getting him you're pretty much grabbing him via flex.
He's taken in the hundreds, and so you're looking at that point 10th round if you're in a 10-team league.
Yeah, like you can get him very, very late and get a whole lot of productivity. So
yeah, and my
now
in PPR, standard PPR, 6 times he did not exceed his expectations, meaning 12 times he did.
Not bad for that catastrophe for the team that they had to when the entire offense was Brock Bowers, please save us. Like he was at this point. So you know what? That's a very good pickup you can get later. And like you mentioned, maybe you have Jamar Chase on a bye week. Jakobi Meyers can save you for that week too. So now we're gonna each pick a dud. We're gonna go back and forth. We're gonna do this like compliment sandwich style. So now we're talking about someone who maybe they won't have a bad year, but where you'll be drafting them, it could end up hurting you necessarily. And I'm gonna start with a little bit. I'm just gonna throw the steamer out there right away. We're gonna go with Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's an outstanding receiver. I think he's an awesome player, and what he did down the stretch last year was awesome. Right now, he is receiver 8, which means he's usually going in a 10-man league. You're getting him in round 2 usually. Another dreaded week 8 bye week. I don't know why they did this, but whatever. My biggest issues were last year when Trevor Lawrence was in the lineup for about 8 games, he had 50 targets. When Mac Jones was in the lineup for about 6, 7 games, he had 80 targets, including that 5-game stretch down the back half of the season where he had 100 yards in every game. And I think it finished with like 5 touchdowns in each of across those games as well, where he was absolutely dynamic and finished as a top 7 receiver, something like that in many leagues. A big play machine. He out there somewhere. Mac Jones looked at him and was like, that's the best receiver I've seen since I had Devontae Smith winning the Heisman. I'm going to throw him the ball relentlessly. And it worked for his fantasy numbers. Trevor Lawrence didn't do that as much in the first 8 or 9 games when he was healthy and they were playing. He's still good. Don't get me wrong. You still can take Brian Thomas. I still think he's going to be good this year. Some of those balls are going to go to Travis Hunter now. Liam Cohn come in. We saw the amount of different ways they got the running backs involved. ETN, Tank Bigsby, etc. I just when you have to take me in round 2, I kind of want someone to, when it comes to round 1 and 2, I like to keep things as quote unquote risk free as possible. Like I don't want to put my entire faith in my round 2 pick in Trevor Lawrence at this point in 2025. So I'm going to say Brian Thomas Jr. has the potential to kind of hurt you if you end up taking him at 2.4 or something like that. Like you're on the back half of a 10-man swing. So we're going to say Brian Thomas Jr. could be a bit of a dud, but under no circumstances is a shot at him. It's a shot at Jacksonville as a whole.
Okay. Wow. I don't hate that at all. I'm always scared about Jacksonville players in general. Outside of a guy who's carrying the rock like every play, I don't really trust him. I'm a guy who stashes Trevor Lawrence, who has always stashed Trevor Lawrence, and never take him to actually start for my teams because I never wanted to risk that. And it's always worked out for me that way. I've never had to worry about the issues that come with him.
What's weird too with BTJ is he has such a good strength of schedule. It's so tempting. Like everything points to it, except for that whole factor of like, is he going to get the high volume that he got down the stretch? Mac Jones is a starting quarterback. I would say screw that. Mac Jones will just throw it to him blindly. He helped the guy win a Heisman doing that. So that's my only issue is he going to get the same volume with Trevor Lawrence at the helm?
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair question.
Or Travis Hunter trying to win a Heisman in the NFL too. Like,
yeah, you never know. Heck, Travis Hunter might play starting QB at some point in time this season. Like they're at that point.
Let's hope it doesn't get that.
So you just never know. But no, for my first bust, I'm going with running back number 12, taken on average at number 21 overall, which is a wild place to start because that's borderline second round, depending on how many players are in your league. Chase Brown is my
Ooh, okay.
potential bust. And it's because I don't trust the Bengals outside of Joe Burrow and outside of Jamar Chase and outside of T. Higgins in the red zone. And I live and die by T. Higgins more times than anybody else will. But Chase Brown is a guy, yes, he's exceeded expectations in a greater than not amount of times last season. Still didn't cross 1,000 yards. Still didn't give you a whole bunch of touchdowns. But he was a guy that you could count on for yards, for PPR especially. I don't know if he's going to be the option this year because right now the Bengals just need to win, and I don't know if Chase Brown's the option for just winning. It scares me. He does have the running back the 10th best strength of schedule, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing because the 10th best means you also have to go against the AFC North twice, which means the Ravens twice, which means the Steelers twice, which means the Browns twice. So not that great of a situation, and that's tough when you're already the Bengals and you're doing whatever you're doing. I like Chase Brown as a player overall. I don't like him as a fantasy football player, though, and that's where I think the struggle is for me, where I look at where he's being drafted as a really, really high option. Like, especially, we know how important running backs are. A guy who's going in the first 2 rounds potentially for a 12-team league, like, you got to hit it. It just can't be the situations we've seen before, but this is like, you got to be good. And I don't know if he's the guy you want to get taken that first 2 rounds as your number 1, potentially number 2 running back starting every week. And so that's why I look at him as potential duds.
What also I find very interesting is what's funny is he has like you mentioned, a very good strength of schedule. In a standard non-PPR league, he's running back 13, and at PPR, he is 10, as you mentioned, which
Mhm.
I feel like he should in a PPR league, he should be 10, but if in a standard league, he should drop a lot lower than that because
Yeah.
his entire game feels almost the OGs will remember this one, Danny Woodhead with the Patriots. When he
Yeah.
brought him in, you knew it was a pass. He was gonna get the ball and he's gonna make plays. He is a dynamic receiving weapon. They're not gonna hand the ball to him 15 times though. Like he's gonna get his on the checkdowns when Joe Burrow hits the top of the drop. The offensive line's getting overwhelmed by TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, and the Ravens. So he can't throw it deep to Jamar and T out there somewhere. He's gonna flick it 2 yards to Chase Brown. He's gonna turn around, maybe make a guy miss, gain 7 yards. It's gonna be productive. It's gonna be good. But like you mentioned, let's say you go receiver in your first 2 rounds and you're getting Chase Brown on that swing. You don't want him to be your high scoring running back necessarily. So I'm in agreement with you. And there's just a lot of variables, but if it's a weird, like, rookie year Saquon where they can't throw the ball down the field because the offensive line is so bad, and he gets 112 catches, even if they're only 3 yards a clip, that adds up. But I don't think the Bengals want to do that either. I think they'll die before they let that happen.
No, his best performance last year was an 120-yard game where he did not score a touchdown. He had 5 receptions for 37 yards and a receiving touchdown. So he didn't get a rushing touchdown, I should say, but he did get a receiving. Ended up with 26.7 points. Next closest 23.2, and then everything after that, you're looking at in between 10 and 16 points with a couple outliers. And it's like, yeah, your average is good, but it's not as good as the other guys around you. Is kind of where it is for me. Again, I don't mind him in the 4th, 5th round. I don't mind him as my running back 3, but a running back 2 is just scares me.
I feel like if you can get him in that value, that's great. There's just a lot of questionable factors, and because there's such a premium on running backs, he ends up getting pushed up there a little bit as well. But like you said, maybe he's running back 2 for you, and you have 2 really good receivers and a good main running back. Then that's a really good fit at that point. Like where problem is where the ADP tends to be. It could be it's one of those where every year some guys get pushed up a little bit faster than they should, or maybe a little bit higher than they should because of a premium. But I'm going to now focus on my second guy that I think could be a stud. We're going to stick with the receiver position as well, because not as much of a premium. So I think they have a little bit chance to really surprise you. We're going to go with Calvin Ridley, receiver number 35 in PPR leagues. We'll start with the strength of schedule, 4 out of 5 stars, one of the easiest strength of schedules. Not only does he have a new quarterback, the last one is out for the season, so he doesn't have to worry about Will Levis accidentally coming back in and Levising it up. So it's going to be Cam Ward, or he's taking the snaps himself at this point. I think Cam Ward's going to light a little bit of a fire under this offense. I think Brian Callahan, as the offensive coordinator, is going to get to open things up a lot more because he's not going to have Will Levising it up, or Mason Rudolph not getting hit in the head with a helmet and whatnot at this point. So I think there's such a sharp upgrade at quarterback. And we saw what Calvin Ridley did down the stretch, even with Mason Rudolph. He was a lot more productive. So you give him Cam Ward, dynamic, electric. They're going to tell him, go out there and sling it, young man. Just sling it. Don't even think about it. Just let it fly. I think that's going to bode well for Calvin Ridley. In a bad division, nonetheless, too. Really good strength of schedule. Huge upgrade, offensive-minded coach. I just think he's going to have a lot of opportunities. He's a clean route runner who gets open. Those are always great for young quarterbacks. Like, that makes the window so much bigger. So I expect Calvin Ridley, and going so late at receiver, number 35 in PPR leagues, you're getting him as a flex player usually at that point. Maybe a receiver too if you steal all the running backs early on, and or you steal 2 tight ends or something, or you just want to be goofy. Like, chances are you're going to get him as a flex option. So I love Calvin Ridley as a guy that could break out this year.
Yeah, no, I think I've long been a fan of Calvin Ridley as far as potential. The question
Oh,
is
wait,
never potential with him though.
I missed the golden. You can bet on Calvin Ridley being awesome this year. There we go. I almost forgot. Unbelievable. I almost let that one get away from me.
Where's the flag at when we need it?
Oh, I
Out of
got
bounds.
it.
Out of bounds. Well, there's not Iowa, so I guess it's inbounds.
There we go.
No, I've always been a supporter of Calvin Ridley's potential. It's just a matter of now with Cam Ward, who is a real quarterback finally. So he hasn't had one since Matt Ryan, and we know what he did with Matt Ryan. Can he actually be that guy again? We'll wait and see. So I definitely don't mind that option as a potential stud. Now I'm going to take a flyer here on my second option for a sleeper because I don't normally do this, and that is go with rookies. I don't like to pick rookies as a potential linchpin of my team. It scares me beyond belief. I've been screwed by it before, and it might happen again in this case. But he's a guy that you have every opportunity to draft late. Every opportunity. He's a running back. And I just talked about a running back I'm scared of taking too soon. This is a running back that has every opportunity to be successful, and that is Travion Henderson.
Yes.
Second best strength of schedule of any running back in ADPs. So absolute opportunity on average being taken somewhere in the 50s, it looks like. So late fourth, fifth round. For a guy who you're probably going to stash as your running back 3, you're taking him as your third option, or you're taking him as your second. I hate that you have experts saying he's not a NFL workhorse. We haven't seen him fully healthy. Like, the dude was at Ohio State dominating, and he was the most exciting player in the running back core. No offense to Kinshawn Judkins, but we'll leave that alone. With Henderson, it's one of those things where you just know he can catch the ball. You know he can run it. You've seen him do it. And he has explosive speed that it may not be get away from you speed, but it will get by you speed, and then you have to chase him down. Good luck with that. Because he's already going to have a 10-yard head start, and he's not slowing down for the next 40 yards. He's a guy that you just look at and you wonder what the potential is on this Patriots team, who you need to have somebody out of the backfield that to be dynamic for Drake May to succeed. And I think Travion is that guy. And I think where he's being drafted, and right now, running back 23 is his PPR ranking. Every opportunity for that to be much, much higher, especially that strength of schedule. I mean, come on, this is an opportunity just lying in the weeds. And if you have the option to take him, take him. Don't overthink this one. It's gonna work out for you, or you're gonna have a great trade bait when he has a great game in week 3, and you're like, oh, let me get a bunch of stuff for him, and then you look great, you look intelligent as well. But yeah, that's my potential sleeper here is Travion. But yeah, he is a sleeper waiting to happen if I've seen one.
I've been taking all of the mock drafts. I've been doing it nauseum just for fun. I always find a way to get him because the only thing I don't like is that week 14 bye weeks. That's right at the playoff time. But like you, like there's
talking about like week 8
you guys,
is that big one, right? Like
exactly. So you got him through that whole first part of the season. So what I also love about it too is he was so good at pass blocking at Ohio State. You can make a case he's the best pass blocking running back. In addition to his outstanding receiving skills, he's going to be on the field. I don't think Ramondre Stevenson's going to poach that many carries from him. I don't think it's going to be. I think by mid-season, give or at the latest, he's going to be the main workhorse running back. Mike Vrabel's going to love that pass protection. Drake May is going to love that pass protection. Drake May is going to love the fact that none of those receivers are necessarily getting open unless Stephon Diggs has a renaissance, so he could check it down to Travion Henderson. So
and
I think he's
Vrabel has firsthand experience with Travion.
He knows.
Yeah, he was at Ohio State. Like, he knows.
He's gonna recognize like I'm surprised he's not going higher just because he has such a high potential to be a starting running back as well. Like, I get it should be Ashton Genty, then Omarion Hampton, then maybe the RJ.
Yeah.
He should be right there with RJ Harvey, I believe, as well as because I think they have so much
Potential. I
opportunity to
think
get big
potential
bucks.
wise, absolutely.
Absolutely. So
I'll
I'm
take
gonna now
advantage
go.
of everybody else's stupidity, though.
Well, not in our league. He's already on my list, so it's gonna be which one of us is gonna take the reach. So we'll see
I
who
got
gets
him
the
in our
better running back.
I got him in our last mock draft. We'll see if I can get him in our next mock draft.
I've got him in every mock draft I've done since then. I make a point of it, but I'm gonna go with my final dud. Once again, that doesn't mean I think they're gonna be bad or have a bad season, although the holdout does worry me. I'm gonna go with James Cook. I think he could be a bit of a letdown this year. He's going at running back 16 in PPR leagues, so it's not too terribly high, but with the premium on running backs, that's usually at around the 5th round, give or take, if maybe 6th round, depending on how many people are in the league. Usually, if you're looking there, my concern is if you're getting him to be a running back as opposed to a flex. I think if you already have your stalwart running backs, not a bad pick there. But last year, James Cook, I think we can say was pretty outstanding. I mean, he scored, I think it was 18 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. And even with all of those touchdowns, he finished as running back 8. So there were still 8 guys that finished ahead of him. He had 1,009 yards. He just cracked the mark. That offense is too. I don't like it when running backs are that touchdown dependent unless they're Derrick Henry because he's the freakish anomaly that just never stops. But when they're due to come back down to earth a little bit, like if he scored 11 touchdowns, I think he'd have been like running back 16 or something like that, about where he's going. So I don't really love it. I don't think that touchdown production is going to mimic itself. I think the offense isn't going to. There's still the Josh Allen factor. He's going to steal your touchdowns too. That son of a gun. He's going to, unless you have a Saquon Barkley season, you're still going to lose some there. Their offense, I expect to open up a little bit more. Some of the picks they've made, some of the draft stuff they've done. And I don't love the contract holdout for running backs either, or the contract issue going on right now. So I'm going to take James Cook as usually you're taking him in around like 5, 6, 7, 5, 6-ish range. I would prefer him around like round 8. And some of the guys getting drafted in the same vicinity, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Chuba Hubbard, Omarion Hampton, James Conner. Like I feel like those guys I'd feel a little bit more comfortable taking than him at this point.
I don't mind it. I don't mind that pick at all.
This is a James Cook fan account. It's just for fantasy draft positioning. That's where I don't love it.
He's one of those guys. I struggle with drafting him early, but I'll usually wait until somebody gets frustrated with him in the first 2 weeks because Josh is taking all the touchdowns, and then he's like, drop him. And then I pick him up, and I'm like, yay, me.
I'm taking Travion Henderson before him for sure. No, I'll say that.
Maybe not, but
I'm taking them both around like that round 9 spot. Is
I was like, I'll take him late in the draft. I'm fine with that. But no, it's definitely an opportunity there. If he's a early guy, just avoid him. Try to get him mid to late. I agree with that for sure. All right, my last dud, and maybe I'm going to catch a lot of flack from this, but this guy has been ranked as wide receiver number 2 by some experts. Averages a wide receiver 6 ranking, and is being taken in the top 10 in every mock draft I've been in. He is coming off a sprained PCL and is a guy who relies on separation but not speed. And you're telling me he has a knee problem. He's also playing with an aging quarterback and has a 30-plus-year-old co-wide receiver added to the mix in a team that's shown they are running back favored. Puka Nacua.
Not a poop in a cup.
I don't mind Puka 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Cool. Fantastic.
You're not getting him there.
10th overall? No. I'm not taking Puka in the top 10. I've been bitten by guys with lower leg injuries time and time again by taking them in the top 10. Remember Tyreek had a nagging ankle injury a couple years back, couldn't stay on the field for the life of him. And it was the 1 year Tua was good. And it's like, okay, Tua's great. Where's Tyreek at? I drafted Tyreek that year. I drafted CMC last year.
To be fair, Tyreek was outstanding for those 10 weeks before that ankle injury popped in.
Absolutely. He was fantastic. But Puka last year, despite all the plaudits, finished wide receiver 21.
Yeah, he missed a lot of time last year. That was painful for those.
Missed 5 games last year. That's all he missed, was 5 games.
He was in and out a little bit too with the nagging popping in. Like you mentioned, it's nagging. That's what the concern is.
Is a top 10 drafted guy worth a wide receiver 21 end of season ranking? Not for me. I need a top 10 guy to be much higher than that. And also, if we want to talk in specificity here, he has the 22nd hardest strength of schedule for wide receivers. And yes, I do love me some Puka when it's time to draft him. Every time I've been able to draft him 4th, 5th, 6th round or later, it's been great. The moment he's ahead of that 4th round, I'm not trusting him. I don't trust the injury concerns. I don't trust that. And it's this team, the Rams team. Matt Stafford, is he going to be healthy? If Matt Stafford's not healthy, who's getting Puka the ball? If Puka's not 100%, can he still perform? Because while on one leg, he was not that guy. How much does Devontae impact this? Devontae still has a high productivity rate, but again, it's comfortability, right? Like, if Stafford's more comfortable throwing to Devontae, he's going to throw to Devontae. We've seen that before. We've seen Aaron Rodgers do that. Despite all the other talent he has on the field, he focused on Devontae. It's a comfortability factor. Puka and Stafford didn't seem to have the same relationship like Cooper Kupp and Stafford did. It was more like all right, I'm throwing to Puka, he's open. Like, it was like that. It wasn't like I know I can trust him to make these plays. And I think that's the thing that Puka scares me, is because he requires separation, and that requires quick cuts and sharp cuts. You can't do that on knee injuries. Healthy, 100% healthy is one thing, but 100% healthy mind and body is a different story. And once you've injured your knee once, I can speak from experience, you're a little hesitant every time you take a plant on that same leg. And that's concerning. Does he change his entire route tree to match the injury? And that's a potential another problem. Like, there's so many potential problems. I'm scared of the top 10 draft pick here for Puka Nacua.
I'm picking number 10. I have no problem taking him either 10 or the first spot in round 2. That's just because I like the upside. What the downside is everything you mentioned: the knee injury, the really slow start, the Matthew Stafford's off if Devontae gets the force feed. The good side, which I see a lot of people, is from weeks 8 to 18 last year, he was the best fantasy receiver not named Jamar Chase. And he finished 4th in the last 8 weeks of the year. So, like, when he did get healthy, he was outstanding. And that's when the Rams actually really got good last year. So the Rams are good as Puka's good. So hopefully Sean McVay sees that and gives him the ball.
And
but like you said,
by the way, he only exceeded his expectations 4 out of those 10 weeks you just mentioned.
That's because he was expected to get 25 points every week, and he only got 24.
Yeah, I mean, his actual projected points each week was between 10 and 15 points, and he only outscored that, 4-5 times out of those 10 weeks.
I'm just saying, when he is healthy and when he's right, it's awesome. Like, I agree with you. The injury concerns always worry me, especially those first round picks. We talked about this a little bit at the Fantasy Football Expo with a few people. For me personally, when it comes to those first round picks, my biggest thing is I want to be safe. I don't want to take too many gambles. And if come draft time, there's any even inclination that Puka's not 100% moving and grooving and shucking and jiving and ready to roll, then I'm going to be like, you know what? We might wait on this one. I don't like that he missed weeks 2, 3, 4, 5 going into the week 6 bye week last week. I don't like that he only played a handful of snaps in the first week. I don't like that week 7 he didn't play either. After that, he was great. I didn't love how long it took for him to get going, as you mentioned. And I do like that 41-point outburst against Buffalo down the stretch, right around playoff time. I like the 23 points in week 17. I do like the 25 points here and there. Like, it's tough with him. It's very, very tough because, like you said, if he gets dinged, if he gets bumped, he did have a 2-point game during that stretch as well. So that's
yeah.
If I can get almost all the reassurances that he's in practice and training camp, because when we do our drafts, it's going to be about a month and some change from now. Everything's looking good there, then I like it, but I'm in agreement with you. If there's any inclination, we're waiting until round 3. We're waiting until round 3 at that point.
It's like when he exceeded his expectation, it was by less than 5 points in half of those opportunities. Yeah, he had the one huge blow up. But then there's a 9.4 and an 8.7, and outside of that, the rest of them are 2, 4, 3.5. Like, that's struggling. That's not great for what should be a number 1, 2, or 3 wide receiver in the league.
I also want to point out, too, he has another one of those dreaded week 8 bye weeks. Like, gosh, I'm getting tired of it. Mix up the bye weeks a little bit better, at least with how the fantasy football gods go. Help us out here, because all the guys that you take in kind of a similar spot or in a similar how they fall to you, can't go Puka Nacua and Brock Bowers because 2 week 8s. You can't do Puka, Brock, and Marvin Harrison because they're all week 8s.
I will do 2 of those 3. I guarantee you I will.
I will do a lot of them. I will concede week 8 if the draft falls that way to get the right players. I'll just concede
I'll
week 8.
Sacrifice that. Mid-season, I don't care. Let me win every other week, but week 8.
And that's what matters first. But let us know some of your fantasy football sleepers and potential duds going into next season. That's now going to take us into Kelcey's favorite part of every show. That is the main event. That is crunch time. We just finished the main event. You know why I said the main event? Because we're talking about the main event of UFC 318, the retirement for Dustin Poirier. He decides to hang up the gloves, and even at the end of the fight, he's like, "Yeah, you know what? I definitely don't have it." So I don't think we have to worry about him trying to come back in like a year back. Oh, I got the itch again. I think he kind of realized at the end of that it's not quite there. The biggest question with it is where does Dustin Poirier rank all time? He is a former interim champion. I want to pop this up to you because I want us to look at this. This is his resume. We're just going to focus on his UFC resume, going back to the very beginning. His initial fight was against Josh Crispy, a guy who was supposed to potentially fight for a title at the time, but the champion got injured. Gets a victory there. Max Holloway's first fight in the UFC. He welcomed into the UFC with a submission, with a first round submission. Chan Sung Jung, one of the most exciting guys at 145 at the time. Jonathan Brookins, a tough Ultimate Fighter finalist. Cub Swanson, one of the original 145ers. Eric Koch, another guy who was supposed to fight for the title at this point, but the champion got injured. Diego Brandao, an Ultimate Fighter winner. Conor McGregor, the weightlifting champion of 2025, I suppose. We have Yancy Medeiros, Diego Ferreira, Michael Johnson, Jim Miller, the most fights in UFC history. Eddie Alvarez, former lightweight champion. Anthony Pettis, former champion. Justin Gaethje, former interim champion. Max Holloway at this point was a champion when he fought him in the rematch. Khabib, champion. Dan Hooker, top 5 currently. Connor, weightlifting fiasco. Charles Oliveira, former champion. Michael Chandler, really good random clickbait yelling into the microphone at the end of fights even when he loses. Justin Gaethje again, Islam Makhachev. His resume is so outstanding. He's fought everybody in the nicest, most respectful way possible. He is the Charles Barkley, not the Karl Malone, because Karl Malone's a piece of shit and Dustin Poirier's a good guy. But those type of guys like the Dan Marino of the UFC, like the best.
He's the John Stockton, is what you're trying to say.
Even John Stockton's kind of good. He's the ultimate guys
Well, I
who
guess
never
the
win
nicer
a
guys, though. Jeff Hornacek. He's the Jeff Hornacek.
There, like just those guys that have never won. Dan Marino, so on and so forth. The guys that were the best fighter in my UFC fighter to not hold undisputed gold. He does have an interim title to his name. I would say he has the case for that. A surefire Hall of Famer, in my opinion, paid in full. The diamonds are forever. And you look, he fought everybody. You look back at this, it's never like, wow, I wish he'd have fought that guy. He was always there. Maybe you could say, I wish he'd have fought Nate Diaz. That fight got canceled. It's not like he avoided or ducked him or sat around. Maybe wish he would have fought Jose Aldo, but he didn't quite get the title shot at the time. You look at all these names. It's a who's list. An incredible fight career. And I still think, as of right now, he is the best UFC fighter to never hold undisputed gold. I think that makes him a surefire Hall of Famer in the nicest way possible. Dan Marino, Charles Barkley, etc. of the UFC. Not Karl Malone. Not doing that one again.
Yeah, no, I love the fact that, we've talked about him before on the show. He's a guy that has no problem standing in the middle of the ring and just duking it out. And at the end of the fight with Holloway, it was like, oh, well, hold on. I don't have this anymore. Let me just wrap and I'm making a business decision because I'm going to be on camera here. And if that's your first time ever watching Poirier, that's not how he actually fights. That's not normal for him. That was definitely his swan song. And like, he knew it at that point in time. It's like, all right, yeah, I'm not going to.
That's where Max
what's best for.
When Max was that fast too, he's like, I'm not going face down in my final fight ever. I'm not face planting. You will not let me go out like this in a fight that I've already lost.
Exactly. Like, and so like that was a crappy situation to maybe that's how he's remembered for some people that are just naive and don't know. In reality, this guy is just one of the best to ever do it. And
how close he was to finishing the fight in round 3, I think it was too. I had Holloway badly hurt even in that Swan Song fight. Like he's still a top 10 fighter right now, but I'm glad to see him go out on his terms. Diamonds are forever, and he paid it in full. His Good Fight Foundation, where he donated his fight kits and used the money for charity, was still one of the most incredible things. It raised so much money for those who needed it. So we're going to miss Dustin Poirier. A lot of those OG fighters are starting to go. Hopefully we get some new ones to come in, but that's going to do it here for the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate you all so much for joining us here on this Wednesday evening for one of your favorite places to check out podcasts. Housekeeping notes. Next week, our final fantasy football mock draft. Which one of us will get Travion Henderson and which one of us is going to reach for him, or somebody else going to throw a wrench in our plans? Then after that begins our NFL predictions countdown, division by division, every week leading right up to the season, including our Super Bowl picks, our MVP, our award picks, and everything in between. You won't want to miss those. Plus, we will have our actual fantasy draft with money on the line, like we've done the last couple of years. We're going to have that one live streamed as well. Plus, keep an eye out for us at the Fantasy Football Expo as well. So a lot of fun. Football fans, we're right here. We're back. We appreciate y'all for hanging out with us, and it's going to be a fun next couple of months as we head into the NFL season, but we'll see you all again next time.